With that, viewers, let me also welcome Dr. Vandana Singh, who is an aviation entrepreneur. She's somebody who's also seen such cases in the past. I'm also joined by Khushbu Jain. She is an advocate. We're also expecting Mr. PK Jain, former additional DGP, to join us on the broadcast. Good evening, namaskar to both of you. Dr. Vandana Singh, let me begin with you. You know, here's a young girl who's a pilot. You would think she's a strong young girl. She's a 25-year-old girl, a bright girl who's gone on to become a pilot. She's trained to be strong. And yet, this is something that she cannot deal with, and she chooses to take her own life instead of walking away from the man.
Well, thank you for having me on this show, Shreya. And my first thoughts are for the family and deep condolences, because this is a tragic loss of life that was so well trained and of a daughter which was so patriotic and so well groomed. So I hope the police conducts the investigation and looks into this and justice is brought to the family. Coming on to what happens here, well, whether it's the aviation industry or, for example, it's a surgeon, time and discipline play a very important role. Work-life balance play a very important role. And often we see youngsters, young people, 25 to 30-year-old to 35-year-old, these days coming into this kind of a situation where they are facing existential angst, isolation, a sort of meaningless to life. And behind it could be a sort of harassment, could be something that could be troubling them. And when such cases of toxic relationships, for example, come to me, then I always first tell them to take a break. They should take at least 1 or 2 days break to first ease themselves, because it could be either a mountain of a molehill or a molehill of a mountain. But then there are mentors, there are seniors, there are parents who always give the right guidance to the children. And if it is a relationship where you are facing this kind of harassment, you have to give time to the person to speak up. And if the person has to open up and not let it go under the carpet. And in such tragic cases, more often than not, the person has not spoken up or is trying to give body language signals but is not coming in. So I always try to counsel them, and I always try to tell them that first of all you speak up and tell what's going wrong, and then assess it, take a break, because this is not the be-all and end-all of life. If you have to step away from someone, you have to step away from someone. You can't just be in a toxic relationship.
But that takes,
this is what HR
takes different time periods for different people. Dr. Vandana, it takes a lot of courage and different time periods for different people to come up and speak up about what they have gone through. Yes, but let me also welcome Mr. PK Jain into this conversation. And Mr. Jain, you know, I want to understand from you, these are cases, namaskar, these are cases where abetment to suicide is, you know, it's probably a gray area. How do you prove abetment to suicide if you do not have some sort of evidence to prove that, yes, you know, this person was being tortured? If you and I are speaking verbally, how do you prove to a third person that, yes, indeed, it was abetment to suicide? How does the police then, you know, approach such cases?
Good evening, Shreya. Thank you very much for inviting me to the show. My condolences to the family. Unfortunate incident where a young life has been lost. See, in such cases, generally, if it is a case of a suicide or it's a case of murder or abetment to suicide, there are only 3 scenarios in this. Murder is ruled out. The abetment to suicide or suicide is the only thing that the police has to decide. Now, what happens is the circumstantial evidence. If the victim has been speaking to the relatives or to parents or to friends about some kind of a harassment prior to committing suicide, those statements help. That is one. Second is, unfortunately, as far as abetment is concerned, the courts generally look at as to what role did the perpetrator have to play in this. Now, in this case, if she had spoken to the so-called accused, 15 minutes before she committed suicide. Now, if the accused had spoken words like, okay, go ahead, hang yourself, or something like that, only then it becomes suicide. Otherwise, it is very, very difficult to prove a case of suicide in abetment to suicide in such cases. So, as you very rightly said, the evidence just before and maybe immediate prior to the incident, and her having spoken to the friends or relations or parents, these are the only statements one can rely upon. The fact of suicide is not disputed or debated. It is only the circumstances leading to the suicide which are important. Shreya.
Yeah.